Welcome. 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 You are all welcome. Even though I don't know where you come from. But if you're here, there must be a reason. I guess. Welcome. But can I call you Bill? Can I call you Bill? Not you. I mean, not each one of you, because your name can still be Bethsabe and you Lancelot. But I mean, you're still Martina, but I mean, you as a whole, can I call you Bill? See, the distance between me and you will always be the same. You are there, me, I'm here. But if I call you Bill, I have the feeling that we know each other. Dear Bill, thank you for coming. Huh? Thank you. I know you're dead. I know you're dead. I know you're dead. You just died this year. But I wanted you here to tell us if there where you are, it's still possible to fall in love. Is it? You don't reply. You're shy. You're shy. Yes, I understand. It's much better to love everything that there is before to regret it. No? Everything? Bill, are you talking about love or desire? See, because it's hard. It's very hard. See, it's hard to grab something like desire. See, because we're used to desire this and then that. This and then that. This and then that. And this and then that. And this and then that means desire is very, very fast. Always somewhere else. And rhymes with death. It runs so fast that it seems that maybe it's after something that it's even faster. Do you remember, Bill, when someone said that the real nature of desire, it is always somewhere else? Always in the desire of the other? And do you remember, Bill, when someone said that desire, it is always desire for death? Or something like, because otherwise, how could you bear existence without knowing that one day all these troubles are going to end? They say desire, it's like a well, right? With no end. And is a conjugation, see? Between a bridge between you and me. See? Between me and you and me walking together in the field. You change a vowel, and the bridge become a well. And it's over. Remember, Bill, the story of the well? You can fill desire with everything, anything. Is the stone that you throw in life splashed at the bottom of the well? I like it because it's very pathetic. I want to do it again. Has the stone you throw in life finally splashed in the bottom of the well? How does it sound? How does it sound? It has been said that at the core of desire, there is nothing. That was the century has said. At the core of desire, nothing. But see, If there is nothing, there must be something, before or after. If there is something, there must be nothing, before or after. Nothing comes to light if not from darkness, and of course, if now we turn off the light, nothing goes into darkness if not from lights. I don't want to change subject, but there is a song that I like a lot. It's a folk song. Now we call it folk song because it was very, very ancient. But it was also very, very popular. Both things means that it was very easy to share. Now the song says that at the beginning, it was not the word, but two principles. See? Two principles. That's what the song says. Two magicians, two enchantments. Now, nowadays, this song about two principles exists in three versions. French, Spanish, it's difficult this, and Scottish. Usually now the two magicians are forgot and has been replaced with the man and woman. I know that this is important. But it's not important for me now. Been replaced with a man and woman. Now, usually it's the man in those songs that comes and says to the woman, if I take you and I hold you down, you'll marry me. I know it's important, but it's not what is important for me now. In other versions, it's the woman that comes and says, if you catch me, I'll marry you. I know it's important, but no, it's not what is important for me now. So the woman comes and says, if you catch me, I'll marry you. And the man goes like, okay, go ahead, run. I know it's important, but it's not what is important now for me. So he runs after this woman, tries to catch her like this with his hand, and she becomes a duck. A duck, you see? What the hell? What the hell? What shall I do? What shall I do? And he becomes a dog, runs after her, bites her on the neck. Bide, lady, bide. There's nowhere you can hide, for the lusty smith will be your lover, and he will lay down your pride. I know it is important, but it is not what is important now. Then eventually she becomes a fly, and he becomes a spider and catch her in his net. Then eventually she becomes a ship, see? And he becomes the wind. Then eventually she becomes a oven, see where you bake stuff? And it becomes a cake, right inside her, where it's warm. It is exactly at this moment that the three versions take different paths. You follow, Bill? Now, Scottish version, classical end. She becomes a bed, and he becomes the sheets. Good. Now, the French version, which is very French, she fakes death. She becomes a corpse, and he becomes the grave for the eternity, death together. Now, the version that I like the most is the Spanish one. Because you remember, at this moment of the story, she's a oven, and he's a cake. She thinks a little bit, and she becomes a man. He thinks a little bit, and says, okay, this is the game you want to play. And he becomes a woman. And they fucks all night. They fuck all night. But see, the fact that they fuck all night is not what is important now. Because, come on, it could have been a man and a man that could have fucked all night as well, right? A woman and a woman that could fuck all night as well, right? A duck and a duck that could have fucked all night as well, right? Yes, I saw this. It happens. What is important for me now is that she wants to become the other. You see, Bill? The other thing that is important now is that in the ancient version, there were two magicians, you remember? But it was very difficult to say who was the man and who was the woman. There were just two enchantments. There were just two songs. And every time one of the songs became a duck, it was the first duck of the word. And every time the other became a spider, it was the first spider of the word. If desire is such a powerful creative force, it is normal that must be behind every revolution or attempt to a revolution. And I'm not sure if I'm talking of revolution that creates, breaks, and tears apart, or those instead that look more like bridges that connect the past with the now. Revolution, in fact, comes from the work on the field, from the farmers to revolt the ground, the dirt, the earth. What is below comes up, and what is up goes below. And then, once again, every season, it is a movement for life. How come you believe in everything I say? But it's possible. Check it out. If my discourse is not clear, it is because it's not clear. It is because I had many questions, see? And then I thought that they were not just my questions. That's why I invited some beautiful, amazing people, like you, not to reply, but to have together the experience of an answer. I like this part, I always do it this way. You know that I'm not good at presenting people, but about these three people tonight here, I can say that Peter Semolič is a poet. His poems are, I think that his poems, they're surreal, but there is nothing unreal in those poems. It's like looking out of the window or drinking from a glass of water. You can have a father that is an elk, or God that is a baby. See? It will not surprise you. That's why I like those poems. About Luca Greco, I can say that when I was looking for him, I didn't even know that he existed. I wanted someone here in Paris, in France, that was doing some researches on everything that is transitory in humans, with a little bit of Californian sunlight. Let me be a little bit pathetic. I like it tonight. And Ariana instead, Ariana is just that, I cannot lie, it's just that her poems, I feel, sometimes I say, thanks, lucky me there is Ariana that exposed. See, sometimes I say, lucky me there is Ariana that said this. Who otherwise would dare? And I cannot lie, I feel very, very close to her poems. Very close. I know some by heart, but I will not bother more or longer than this. So I leave you with this three-part conversation, this three-part program. First part, presentation of each one of them. Second part, the conversation between them and us. And third part, champagne. Enjoy. Thank you.
So good evening to everyone. My name is Peter Semolič, as Alex mentioned. I'm a poet. I'm coming from Slovenia. If you don't know where the Slovenia is, this is a small country of former Yugoslavia between Austria and Italy. It's nice to be here. Alex, thank you very much for the invitation. And I will talk a little bit about the revolutionary nature of poetry. Now, I don't know if you are familiar with the idea that poetry is revolutionary, but a lot of poets claim this through, at least from the Romantic period till now. Now, as a young poet, I like this idea very much, even though I didn't understand it. As I mentioned before, I grew up in the former Yugoslavia, in the communistic regime, and like in many Eastern European countries, the poetry and poets played a very significant role in society. So for me, it was quite natural that poetry and poets were important members of society, and that the revolutionary force of poetry was for me simply a given. That's why I was quite surprised when I realized that in some countries, like France, so Western European countries, or in the United States of America, poetry was not so important. Now, it's not difficult to find sociological and historical explanation as to why poetry has different social status in different cultures, but sociology and history don't explain the alleged revolutionary nature of poetry. So I started to look for an answer to why so many poets, and maybe the most known poet of them is Octavio Paz, famous Mexican poet, and we will meet him again at the end of this my short lecture, treated poetry as revolutionary. So not so long ago, I wrote a poem, Shotokan, and now I will read this poem, but first maybe I have to explain a couple of things related to this poem. Shotokan is style of karate, and it's developed from different martial arts in Japan in the 19th century. And according to the legend, the martial arts were brought into Japan in the 14th century by 36 Chinese families. Shotokan consists of katas, and kata is a pattern of moves. And the poem is dedicated to my girlfriend, Katja, who was one-time champion in Shotokan in Slovenia, and for her the most beautiful kata is kata empi, and empi means swallow, a bird. I will read the poem in Slovene, so probably some of you will hear the Slovene language for the first time, and you can follow the English translation on the screen. Shotokan za Katjo. Za zdaj si še vsa tu, z mamo, očetom, sestro, poročeno na kmete, najboljšo prijateljico. Gledaš publiko, sodnike, trenerja, ki ti določa mero, te v popolnosti, ki ti pripada. Prikloniš se, zavzameš osnovni položaj, izvedla boš kato empi, zahtevna je, morda prezahtevna za tvoje leta. Vsekakor ti je najlepša in kar ti je lepo, ti je tudi dobro in se ti prelega kot po meri skrojeno krilo. Verjameš v skladnost lepote in vrednosti, preideš v prvi položaj. Imaš 13 let in ujela te negotovost pubertete. Prve vprašanja v smislu obstoja, prve skrbi o tvojem videzu. Sem res lepa ali me samo zafrkaval? Vendar ne tu, ne zdaj. Lastovka v letu, rojena leta 1683, nekje na Japonskem, morda celo v eni izmed 36 kitajskih družin. Dihaš. Čutiš, kako te dihanje osredinja nase. Publika izginja vrsto po vrsto in se v prvem kriku razblini kot duh umorjenega iz Rašomona. Položaji sledijo z morilsko natančnostjo. Udarec, ob katerem izgine tvoj oče, obramba, ob kateri skuhtita mama in sestra. Prišla si zmagati, toda ob skoku in obratu v zraku izgine tudi želja po zmagi. Vse izgine. Si samo še ti z vsem svojim bistvom prisotna v svojih gibih, vdihih, izdihih, občasnih krikih. Samo še ti tukaj in zdaj v tej točki. Ni te več. Pošla si nam onkraj pojmljivega. Resnična lastovka, ki je izginila za črto obzorja. Ne vemo, ali se bo še kdaj vrnila v svoje staro gnezdo, v svoje spraševanja, tovajoče iskanje resnice v sebi. In potem glasen pok. Trenutek, ko se spet rodimo v tvojem pogledu, v školjki tvojega ušesa. Zardela kot po ljubljanju, stojiš pred nami, močno in krhko dekle hkrati. Lastovka, ki se je vrnila in nam pusti, da se za hip dotaknemo njenega perja, rosnega od nepredstavljivih daljav. Okay, this is this poem. And the translators, sorry? It's okay. The translators are Anna Jelnikar, Slovenian translator, and American poet Barbara Siegel-Carlson. So now, what's going on in this poem? There is a girl who performs kata impi, and she's so focused and concentrated within herself that she's not aware of her surroundings. And maybe today we will say she's in the moment. Well, but what is more important? More important is that at the same time, she penetrates the history of Shotokan and the history of Japanese martial arts right through to their beginning. And at this point, she becomes one with kata impi. She becomes a swallow, and then she disappears. When she returns, she is somehow different and unknown to us. Now, if you replace the young girl with a poet, Shotokan with poetry, and kata impi with a poem, we get a poem about poetry or about experience in writing or reading poetry. Effectively, this means that while writing or reading a poem, we disappear for a moment. But where do we disappear to? Where do we go? French archaeologist Paul Wayne wrote in his book Roman Erotic Elegy, Love, Poetry and West, and now I'm translating this from Slovene, the sources of poetry don't lie in society. And he's right, they lie somewhere else. And maybe someone would say that they lie in the language, and by language I mean the natural human language, but I don't agree with this. They lie in the place, in a land where the girl from the poem went to after she had disappeared, in the place where we go to when we write or read a poem, or at least we have the possibility, because of the poem, to go there. So, where does this land lie, and what does this place, this land, look like? 2 months ago, I was invited to a very nice literature in Malta, and Malta is not that place, but I met a great French poet, Marc Deleuze there. And now I read one of his poems for you, Desert of Evaporated Words. Sorry, I need water. We poets are more quiet people, you know. So I will read to you this poem, Desert of Evaporated Words, in which he describes actually the birthplace of poetry. Once again, I will read this in Slovene, but you can follow the French original. Sadly, Mark is not here in Paris, he's in England, and he's a great reader too. So, in Slovene it sounds like this. Puščava izklapelih besed. Sedi, brezimen. Seveda obstaja, ali bolje kmalu bo obstajal. Sedi na robu svojega obstoja. Je na robu peščine in človeštva, z očmi uprtimi v praznino, v njihovo lastno izbočenost. V tišini njegove prebojene biti se odpira obzorje, kot se še ni nikoli, prostor, ki ga motri, ki se ga uči motriti. Puščava ga bo poimenovala. Puščava je beseda, ki ga bo odtisnila na notranjo stran njegove kože, kot nas knjige, ki nas pišejo, odtisnejo na stran velikega spomina, na geološki asfalt poti, ki nas odpelje proč. Ne premika se. Čas se dviga in se mu bliža. Iz največje oddaljenosti se mu bliža bivanje, ki lupi z vrha peščin pesek kot mrtvo kožo sončevega obraza, kot ljubezen in bolečina lupita ničeve zloge z razslojenih teles. Tiho je, pisati ne more. Na robu obstajanja mora ohraniti svojo notranjost razprto. Pustimo ga sedeti tam. Mi smo tu. So now it's true that poems are made of words and not of ideas, as the fine Mallarmé said. But the sources of poetry, according to the poem of Marc Deleuze, according to my own experience, and the experience of many other poets, lie even beyond words, beyond language. And the sources of poetry lie in the desert, in the wasteland, where time does not exist. They lie in the land of no existence, in the land of death. This may be somewhat mystical, but actually it is not. Nadezhda Mandelstam, and she was a wife of great Russian poet Osip Mandelstam, writes in her memoirs how Osip Mandelstam wrote his poetry. She knew exactly when he would start on a new poem, even before he himself knew it. 2 or 3 days before writing the poem, he started to shake his head as if he had something in his ear. And he really had something in his ear, the rhythm. So poetry came to him in the form of rhythm, not in the form of words, of verses. And, sorry?
Sorry, just because there is at least for me, there is a delay when you talk.
Yes.
If you can just talk, I don't know, separate the words. Better.
More, yes. Okay,
It's
I will
just
try.
The cross shoulder.
Sorry.
Maybe it's just my problem.
No, probably the problem of all of you, of the bill too. Yeah. Okay, so where I stop now. Yes, so the poetry came to Osip Mandelstam in the form of rhythm, not in the form of words. So the poetry exists even before words. And one Slovenian poet, Dan Zajc, maybe the greatest Slovenian poet of the 20th century, once told me, I don't write, I only describe what I see. So the poetry came to him in the form of images, not in the form of words, of verses. So obviously poetry is not language. It uses language, but it's not language. And poem obviously is not a matter of culture. It becomes a matter of culture, but its origins are outside of culture, outside of society. Poetry is intimately connected with something very primordial in us. It's a barbarian, the barbarian from the Kavafis poem. A poem is an outlaw. But when the poem manifests itself in culture, it becomes a possibility, an entrance to this long-lost land of our deepest desire, to our calm time. So I finally got the answer why poetry is revolutionary, or why it holds the possibility to change our lives. Not because it would play this or that kind of role in this or that kind of society or culture, but because it is eroticism, or a form of eroticism. And Georges Bataille wrote in his introduction to eroticism, poetry leads to the same place as all forms of eroticism, to the blending and fusion of separate objects. It leads us to eternity. It leads us to death, and through that, to continuity. Poetry is eternity, the sun matched with the sea. And of course, here he was quoting Art Johan Bohr. I read this quite quickly because I thought that I didn't want to be longer than 20 minutes. Sorry. But at the end, I'd like to read one poem. It is my poem, and the title is Reading Octavio Paz. This is quite an apt choice because I found the answer I was looking for. Why the poetry alleged to be revolutionary? I found in the Octavio Paz essays, The Bow and the Lyre. And once again, I will read in Slovene, and you can follow the English translation on the screen. Branje Octavia Paza. Nocoj plujem po vseh svojih rekah, nošen s tokom govorice. Plujem, ko govorim, govorim, ko plujem. Reke, lesketave kot otroški smeh, stakato brzic, hitri zdrsi prek kaskad, zanosno padanje prek slapov, delci vode in v vsakem sonce, in končno pena, mehuri zraka, ki me oblivajo kot velikanski džakuzi. Reka, veliki rjavi bog, me nosi kot speče bruno skozi visoko poletje, brančanje žuželjk. Plujem, govorim, ko plujem, vidim sinje nebo, oblak in ribe plavajo čezem. Raki se skrivajo v krošnjah dreves, v zeleni eksploziji žvat vivra. Jata mladic prhne iz njih kot preplašene prepelice. Vidim pravilni narcisov obraz, težke kvadre florentinskih zgrad, bloke mostov, prek katerih teče verzi o minevanju in verzi pesnitve, ki jo berem. Vidim sebe v menjavi letnih časov in svojo ljubezen, žalostno kot vrba, ki se sklanja nad me, ki sem reka, ki plujem skozi zimo, skozi mesto, de la Turini, gdi grand žebe, je de la rue. Reka sem, odsotno sprejmem nesrečnega ljubimca, velikega pesnika, in nisem žalosten, ko se obarvam s krvjo, in nisem vesel, ko se topijo ledeniki, ko se dvigam v nebo, ne prizadenete mi niti jesniki nasip. Reka, temno božanstvo onkraj prepletajočega se barjanskega zelenja, brezčutno blatno božanstvo, moje usta te imenujejo Amazonka, ti rečejo Nil, Mississippi, moje oči postavljajo ob tebi skrivnostna mesta, jaz te delam za Okinavo. Mladeniča, lepa kot hiacint, drgetajoča v rosnem jutru, zretavata, izgubljena v sebi, zretavata, lepa kot hiacint, a ti se niti ne ozreš na njo. Nocoj plujem po vseh svojih rekah, zvezde globoko pod mano. Nocoj plujem po sebi, plujem, ko govorim, ko plujem po sebi, razmnoženem v neštete tokove. Potok sem, ob katerem brusim nož, divja deklica se umije v meni po hitrem ljubljenju na prudu. Moja ljubezen sega vame in mi reče kolpa in mi reče rokava in mi reče hladiš, odstiraš pot in mi reče ti si let. Govorim in govorjen sem, plujem in plut sem, resničen sem in privit sem, voda sem, ki me obliva, plavalec sem, ki ostro reže, enakomerni tok, počasni hod reke proti morju. Morje sem, ki je reka vseh rek, nebo sem, ki je morje. Ljubljana, poletje 1998. Na vrtu predmestne krčme berem Oktavija Paza. Sivi čaplji se kot dobra zmaja spreletavata v prosojnem večeru. Enakomerni brum Ljubljanice ob zapornicah, svetlobno telo reke, veliko sonce ugaša v njej. Poberem za otroško pest velik kamen izpod nog in ga vržem preko ograje v vodo. Ne beri me kot zgodbo, beri me kot koncentrične kroge na vodo. Well, thank you very much. Yes, it's a lot of stanzas here, I know, but it's okay.
Thank you, George, for being here. Thank you to Alex for inviting me to this wonderful opportunity to exchange with Peter and Ariana and with all of you. My name is Luca Greco, and I'm Italian, living and working in France. I'm a linguist, and I am interested in collective, multisemiotic, and political dimension at work in language, in how language constitutes the world we live by, how language constructs our bodies, our genders, our sexualities. Language, for me, is a broad semiotic repertoire composed by talk, postures, gaze, prosody, a collective and a performative device, something that constrains us, but also an interesting space open to possibilities and creation. The point I would like to work with you today is to propose to view on desire, the essence of man, as Spinoza said in Ethics, as an ongoing process, intertwined with language, constructing and deconstructing us as a gendered subjects. I will give a perspective on desire deeply anchored in speech practices emerging in action and related to a fieldwork I conducted in Brussels from 2008 to 2012. In this fieldwork, I worked with drag king community. I videotaped drag king workshops and some other social events like performances in theaters, bars, and LGBTQ festivals. First of all, a drag king is a person, generally female assigned at birth, who performs masculinities in recruiting an array of multisemiotic resources composed by talk, gestures, postures, objects, body parts, dress. Almost three goals are pursued in performing masculinity. First, an artistic purpose for the sake of performance. Second, a personal fulfillment. And third, a political agenda disrupting and questioning gender borders, showing masculinity as an artifact and a socially embodied construction. In this framework, drag king practices claim the right to appropriate genders, to dismantle a casual relationship between sex and gender, and to question gender borders in a more general way. My fieldwork, my research, and my presentation are focused mostly on drag king workshops, social activities through which novices could experience masculinities with the help of the experts, choose a king name, a character to embody, and a relevant makeup. Feedback sessions where people who could disclosure what they experienced in the workshop and outside activity, like, for example, walking in a street, where drag king can test those new embodied identities, follow the makeup activity, and close the drag king workshops. In my work, I show how self-construction and presentation is intrinsically collective, historical, political, and embodied practice, and how the construction of self in drag king workshop is plural. By plural self, I mean a self that is constructed with other participants and objects in the temporal unfolding of interactions, but also a self constructed, recruiting other cultural models of persona in past life of social actors. This plurality has some political issues because it could contain some subversive force against a neoliberal system relying on market-based principles who produce monodimensional and monological persona. Moreover, plurality challenges the self versus other categorical pair and the position that a patriarchal system has assigned to women as the other. In what I call plurality, I'm pretty interested in semantic constructions that could be seen, categorically speaking, as paradoxical and dissonant in a certain political framework. Being woman or black and the president of a country, being a trans person and a parent, being a biological man, making the experience of drag kinging and using feminine linguistic forms in speech practices. What is fascinating for me is that desire, as it emerges in action and as it's shaped by action, could produce this type of semantic paradoxes, categorical oxymorons, and cultural dissonance. Desire produced something who could be unexpected and changing our perceptions of the world and of ourselves. That's what I'm going to present today for an example drawn from my experience to be a king in a drag king workshops. The point of this presentation is to show a vision of desire, emphasizing its emerging and transformative dimension in action, and how desire could be anchored in body in collective practices. In this framework, desire is more collective than individual, is more praxeological than cognitive, is more embodied than psychic. I don't want to deny this, but I want just to underline all these dimensions and to propose something of like a multidimensional vision of desire. Finally, this vision in practices and body allows me to show how desire has a proper agency, and it gives me the opportunity to ask some questions. First, how desire moves and transforms us in unexpected ways, how desires take over our ability to act, how desire transforms us in new subjects, and perhaps in something that is close to an idea of collective and maybe revolutionary subject. This point is very close to an idea of political action, but also to a vision about love. Here is a quotation from Ethics of Spinoza, very insightful for my proposal. There are then many things outside ourselves which are useful to us and are therefore to be desired. For example, two individuals of entirely the same nature are united. They form a combination twice as powerful as either of them singly. Therefore, to man there is nothing more useful than man. Nothing, I repeat, more excellent for preserving their being can be wished for by man than the minds and bodies of all should form, as it were, one single mind and one single body. My idea of desire as something who has its proper agency and who changes us echoes the ways through which Spinoza conceived bodies as collective, and the ways through which collective embodied subjects are transformed by the contact with other social actors. This contact transforms at the same time the experience we have of our body as a discrete unity into something of much more large, encompassing bodily and individual borders. This idea of desire with something that it has its proper agency transforming us is also close to what Heidegger said in a conference in 1959 about the nature of language. I quote, "To undergo an experience with something, be it a thing, a person, or a god, means that this something befalls us, strikes us, comes over us, overwhelms and transforms us." When we talk of undergoing an experience, we mean that the experience is not of our own making. To undergo an experience with language means to let ourselves properly concerned by the claim of language by entering into and submitting to it. Now, I will show how during my fieldwork I decide to king myself and to make myself the experience of a drag masculinity and to experience a transition from a biological masculinity to a drag one at a very special moment in my life in which I was experiencing another type of transition toward femininity. Second, I will show how the experience of walking in the street as a drag king with other kings transformed definitely the perception I had of my body and of my desire. I was always been fascinated by bodily transformations. As a scholar working on gender and language and interaction, it was really an exciting experience to work on drag king workshops because I had the impression to enter in the backstage of gender and to have an access to a sort of gender factory. If the desire to cross the genders was an important source of inspiration at the beginning of my fieldwork, the observation and the participation to the workshop enrich and question my desire to cross and to transform genders. So when I decide to make the experience to king myself and to make, for example, a bird, at the moment where I was completely shaved, and to construct a male-gendered character, I had the impression to propose an interesting dissonance, the categorical oxymoron I was talking about before, between my female drag experience and what I was experiencing in this workshop, my actual and my new male drag experience. So, I quit my observer status, gave the camera to another king, and joined the table with the other participants, and excited to begin my male transformation. As you perhaps know, if you want to be a king, a very important male feature is beard. You have to make your own beard in cutting your hair, putting them in a glass, and to glue the hair on your face. Another important aspect of the activity is the relevance of the beard in relation to the character you chose. So if you choose to embody a mafioso character, you construct a mafioso beard and not a teenager beard. At the beginning of my makeup, I had the idea to perform something of very androgynous, or very ambiguous, and gradually, thanks to the presence of other kings who assisted, helped, and inspired me in this process, I realized that my initial desire, my initial intentions change. So, the androgynous character was disappearing, and it was transforming in something of more masculine. My co-participants was calling me Prince, like the singer, suggested me that I was a mafioso or a character of Sergio Leone's movie Once Upon a Time in America. I had the impression that I was not controlling this transformation, that this metamorphosis has a proper agency, and maybe that hair acquired a power over my intentions and over my initial desire. I was becoming something of different, and the subject or the agent of this transformation was not me, the grammatical subject I, but the hair, the makeup activity. So I was transformed by the power of action and the power of transformation. I could say that I was assisting to something that John Dewey calls an experience, a radical transformation of the self and of the environment through the power of interaction. Maybe I was experiencing what Peter Semolič called the fact to speak and to be spoken. I speak and am spoken, I sail and am sailed, I'm real and I am an illusion. I was also experiencing something of truly erotic, very close to the sensation of the loss experience. I was losing my initial desire and my male biological starting point. I was no more a male-gendered person who was experiencing drag masculinity. I was no more a scholar recording the drag king workshop. I was a female-gendered person who was experiencing drag masculinity. Or maybe I was all of those categories, a categorical oxymoron, a plural self. I was lost, and this loss was exciting. I can't reconstruct an exact temporality of the transformation process. It's impossible. This type of experience radically questions the temporality of experience, the existence of a clear cut between a before and an after. Transformation shapes new desires, new temporalities. We lost the objective domain of time and we enter in a subjective domain of temporalities reconstructed and shaped by desires. When I finally go out in the street, we were in the Brussels gay area, I could feel on me gazes of people wondering if I was a boy, a girl, or someone who was in between. I realized at this specific moment that my desire was to generate trouble and to be drawn by genders, to be drawn by an amount of makeup and clothes, to be drawn by a plurality of objects, masks, and selves. I was not a man experiencing a new form of masculinity. I was no more a woman experiencing drag masculinity. I was jumping into the mass of the costumes, of the facial hair, and of makeup, and I became someone of unreadable, someone of unintelligible. It was a sort of psychoanalytic scene, a revelation scene, showing some important facets of myself and of my conception of action, desire, and gender. Something who echoes what Peter Semolič said in this poem, reading Octavio Paz, I am water flooding over me, I am a swimmer cutting sharply across the constant currents, the river's slow amble towards the sea, I am the sea, which is the river of all rivers, I am the sky, which is the sea of all seas. I think that this new form of subjectivities, collective, plural, polyphonic, non-intentional, and unreadable ones, has some powerful erotic and political force. By embracing desire, we go beyond the concept of identity and can start perceiving or imagining us as becoming, resisting to reification, resisting to monodimensional self, but also resisting to commodification of our diversity and plurality. The idea of becoming helps to go beyond the boundaries of the self, to break free from the self, to promote the idea of a necessary lost, to become part of the universe, and to become our own desire, to become our own desires, and to become our own revolution. Thank you.
Can you hear me? And is English good for everybody? Yes? Il y a des francophones? I'm asking because, because I really want to have an experience of communicating with you, and I would love to hear from you as well. I got off an airplane today. I'm very jet lagged, and I lived in Paris for about a year when I was 19, and I was really broke. Do you understand what I mean by broke? And so I feel like I've gone, there's something about the light in here that makes me feel like I'm deep in some kind of memory vault. And this is quite an old room. It feels like, I don't know if it's the jet lag, but I can feel almost like the air over my head is like stacked. So it's exciting to be here, and one of the things about having your body bottled up on trains and planes is that you yearn for some kind of human experience at the other end, and I just wanted to be upfront about my yearnings. So you would know what's going on with me. I just wanted to say a couple of quick things about the first and the second person, the I and the you. I think I became a poet during the Bush years in the United States. So that was a time when we were being addressed by the state and also by advertising in an extremely aggressive manner. I don't know if advertising uses the second person singular in France. Like, I don't know if the style of it is, but in the States, they say you all the time. You want this, or you're this kind of person, or of course you feel this way. And the ads for like psychiatric medication are really interesting too. Like they tell you what your problems are and what your needs are, and then they offer the product. And the state does that too, and especially after September 11th and at the beginning of the War on Terror, there was this aggressive mode of address where the state felt it had even the right to say you to me, and of course that was a time of radical aphasia in the American English language, because the state was lying very, very blatantly and also very clumsily. Are you following me? You with me? So, and to me, the thing about lyric poetry that makes it dirty and creepy and weird is the fact that it partakes of the first person singular, the I, even if that I isn't a self, as we heard in Luca's talk. That the fact that there's a place for that, a speaker, an I, is really revolting to me and fascinating, magnetic. And so a lot of what I've done when I've written poems or made theater or performances is between the first and second person, and exacerbating different tensions. One of the things I'm really interested in is the violence of address, to be addressed at all, and the ethics that might go with that. And another thing that really interests me is the ethics of the love letter. I feel, I don't know if I can say I think, but I feel that love letters partake of an ethics in a very special way, because when you're addressing, when your addressee is a person whom you desire, and that can mean so many things, or there could be so many kinds of desire, and there could be so many kinds at once. You're very careful with your language, and at the same time, there's a huge desire for just to communicate. So there can be an outpouring of data, and it might not even make sense. But for me, if I had the tools to begin to try to construct an ethics, I think love letters would be an interesting place to start. So I'm just going to read you a poem, and then it'll be over. This part one. It's called Thursday. Thurgood Marshall, Uma Thurman, Thelma Golden, Thor, Sir Thomas More, Thor, Heavy one, sky man, Thor's day, Thor, Jupiter, 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 bring me my gold, my serpent, my rod, pour hot gold into my teeth, bind my silver tongue, soak it in soft white gold, Jupiter, and unbind my tongue, Jupiter, and loose it on the world. Alice ordered me to be made, but Alice doesn't live here anymore. Your tongue is in my mouth. I will suck you through the God in my mouth. He lives in the back. I am his student. I will suck you through the God in my mouth. Whatever man you say you are, I will suck the woman out of the man, ferrying my wishbone across the top of the lip of my blood gender, who lives in the back, who lives in the black shine of my mouth. Your tongue is in my mouth, Michael. I will suck you through the God in my mouth, Aaron. Your tongue is in my mouth, Alice. I will suck you through the God in my mouth, Alice. Alice ordered me to be made, Thurston, but Alice doesn't live here anymore. Warm milk chest, heart tattoo in black box, white muscle, pink nipple. Your tongue is in my mouth. You are a man, Mr. Little Muscle Man, Mr. Little Angry Man. The hair is black and stern across your forehead. This gristle fuck when your lips hang red over me. Ari, you're my fantasy. You're telling me. You're always telling me this. I am to be the woman of this. Into me you press your purple red fist anciently, as you like to say. I suck pearls whole out of your hardcore, and seeing is believing, and I am dying to believe. Why am I eating so much cereal? I guess I wish it were morning. I want it to be morning already. I could put on peace tomorrow, be night. Gnarled hands of oak like copper dusted with night dust, shaking like the hands of remonstrant crones in my window light. Justice in the hands of oak, Jupiter oak Thursday, Jupiter oak Thursday, Jupiter oak Thursday. My belly is empty on Thursday, and I am scared. I am scared stiff, scared stiff. Scared to use words the way the Lord uses them, scared to hide in the burning bush and call your name and make you do what I want you to do and force you to believe in me. Oak tree, dead hand, copper flame, crone hand, hag herbalizing and scrying the dark, just past the edge of town in my hag hut. I drop a wiggling toad into the pot. I stir the smoking magic stew. I say the words like a poet. Here speaks a man of high fidelity. I draw a window with a high white sash. This window lives in the Portrait of a Lady by Henry James, which requires my fidelity, which vision of a white lady like John Singer Sargent. I say what I see. This is my power. This is how I keep a secret. This is how I put words in your mouth. There's a small man standing up for himself inside me. I'm a small woman standing up inside a tall man. In the world of persons, God lives in the black of mouths. Something spoken by this God is every God and even the worst words ever spoken, the lisps of death in every mouth. I have no choice but to bless you. The Lord commanded that I circumcise you. The Lord commanded that I circumcise my mouth. I'm on all fours losing my baby. I'm on all fours in the universal hieroglyph of prayer. That's how we fucked in the days of Sumer. That's how we did it in the days of Sumer. Let's just say I want to be drenched in love, skyman or gravity, gravity and grace, we whose mouths are vases of God. Black God shines gold out of the red vase mouth light. We are vases of God in universal night. I don't care if you think I don't know what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying. This universe is moral. I frighten even myself is the name of carpentry. I wish the violence in me to die with myself is the work of carpentry. I have a woman's heart is the name of poetry. My cock is so huge it touches my woman's heart all the way is the work of poetry. This month I've had 4 lovers. I've had real love for them. I hope never to see them again. I will hang latent in the dark like a bat and hoot like an owl to hunt them dead. At the edge of my mouth, I'm an old man. At the front of my mouth, I'm a girl. I bite down on a horse tooth with my yellow rat's teeth. Mild tooth of milk, wild tooth of wolves. At the edge of my mouth, I'm an old man. At the front of my mouth, I'm a girl. Wild and mild like a bad cigar, like a Cinderella made entirely of hair. When we fuck in the rafters, we're making love under the eaves. I saw a picture of Ashton Kutcher clutching Demi Moore's knees. He looked so disgusted and bored. Her toenails were painted crimson and literally terrifying. You could feel the isolation and nothingness like a ray. Everything disgusting about love is an infection I've experienced personally. Everything glorious about love also belongs to me. Witness me as I draw this X. Everything your eye touches is the content of your kingdom. The crown slides down over my eyes. The world exposes its egg to the sky man. It will be Thursday again. Inserting fat into my head via my mouth. Inventing false anatomy with my new mouth. God lives in the back. Cruel brown February. The black hair is straight across your forehead. A curl is bad on my brow. Gingerly and with fidelity, you are a man so loved by men. What's it like to be a man so loved by men, to be looked up to by them in this masculine way? Do you know who I'm talking to when I say I and you say you? I can see the Red Sea. It drains inside me. It parts. It drowns your severity, Aaron. It drowns your cruelty, Aaron. It drowns the evil book of the law you throw at me. It drowns the knives in your muscle belly. It waters the teeth in my head. I can see the Red Sea. It drains me down to the abalone. It drains me down to my white blue intestine. It swallows my chariot. You can't love me like that. I don't want it anymore. And also, I've had enough murder and drugs. I've seen enough on these snake white walls. Alice ordered me to be made, Thurston, but Alice doesn't live here anymore. A paste of sand goes brackish in my veins, drier sheets in my throat, rich people, dead people, people whose heads emanate nothing. I got bored in February. I missed something so hard it made me sad in a final way. Today it is Wednesday. Tomorrow is Thursday, then comes the day of rest. They told me I have to marry Mercury. You know, they do that in Haiti. I'm writing a book called Mercury, I told them. Well, you see, they said, that's excellent, but you have to marry Jupiter, too, they said. I do, I said, I do. I can marry 2. I even have to. You have to, they said. We'll make you the rings. This one with the snake is for Jupiter. I don't know anything about him, I said, but I do like the ring. I don't know anything about him, I said. Don't worry, they said. He knows all about you. Something soft is brushing my milk drape. Why does my body have to change for the light? I don't know how to do it, Thurgood Marshall, Thornton Wilder, Uma Thurman, Sir Thomas More. I don't know how to do it. Worship the God of persons. Worship the God who lives in the back. Feed him my food. Surrender all my names to him. Know the difference between myself and another. I browse the curds and the grasses. I eat them with my muzzle. I'm a cow like Rumi. I'm a holy man. I have no idea how to do it. Holy, holy, holy. Nevertheless, I have no choice but to do it. Holy, holy, holy man. Once you are in the car, you are on the road. Once you are on the road, you are the fool on the spool of God. And here you are born, and here you are born again, and here you will ascend into the black mouth of God. I don't know how to do it, but I'm fuck well doing it. I'm doing it. That's life, I guess. Of course, it can be secular to be alive on a Thursday. And as a matter of fact, it cannot. And as a matter of fact, this is between you and me. universally, and nothing I say belongs remotely to me. Only one grass whistles at the tooth of my horse, and the moon drops fast behind the fences, and the wheat lolls back and waits for death. I could see the sea from where I was. My mesh hat shone blue, the jagged cheek of Gibraltar, solid, sucked in the mouth and never melting, where my dog's warm underleg soothes the wet stone. I speak of it thusly, I say it thusly, I lisp its name into the curl of wall stained dark in the impression of my mouth. Only one grass whistles at the tooth of my horse, and the moon bends back, and the wheat lolls back, and opens its stomach, and waits for death. I soak it in my black water. It seethes in bags I have hung up among the rafters. It seethes in bags of amber and jasper transfusions, flour liquids in cellophane pouches, streaked with goo clots of plastic soldier sun, when the pitcher is poured out the length of my tongue, and 10 vats of grease ignite in unison. Only one grass whistles out the tooth of my horse, a too tight phylactery, the moon bending back, the wheat lolling back, scroll boxes clattering on the stone, jugs of gasoline and jugs of sand. I threw my coat on the sea, the velvet sea, my coat spread, my coat spread. It was the blue of the top of the column of milk, its soaked embroidery. It was the ditty two winds whined into the anus of night. Skating along the floor of the brook are leaves and ice. Devolving on the brook floor, it is only one little one blue shard of pale Palestine. The wineskins are pricked, goat's udders banged sore, where mica lodges in the mucus house, where my velvet is sucked down, where the cheek blows thick with sleep to be brushed by the sea. Blue Palestine, wrung swan neck in oil, tasseling dirty day with rocks that fly and fly and fall and fall and fall. The moon bends back and the wheat lolls back. A cracker whitens on the tongue of the hanged man. My velvet is sucked down the sea. The sea wall is chipped blue, the clock of Palestine, gulls' salt beaks, iron drums soldered shut and stuffed with salt cod, an anvil of rammed earth in the form of a baby belly button, hair raised on the hat of the imperatrix, embossed forever in her brass annal. No grass screams against the foot of my horse. No rock whinnies down the side of the sea. No scroll staves off the reeds quivering in my rib wall, and no algaes quiver, and no frogs belch out the tablet over the song of my purchase of night. Blue Palestine, red sucker bloody on the bib of the world. Blue Palestine, ice tray soaked in solid sun.
Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was wonderful. Does it work? It was wonderful, thank you. It was wonderful. Wonderful, thank you so much. Usually at this moment, I ask to the public if they have some questions. Because sometimes you have a question and you have to wait till the end, but you cannot hold it, see? So, anybody has some questions? We start from the public here.
Can I ask them a question?
Of course, yes.
I'm curious why you're here. I would love to know. Do you guys want to know? If anyone wants to say, you don't have to, but I would.
I will try in English. No, I wanted to hear about the relationship between desire and revolution. So, I've heard something different today, so I will try to make the relationship myself.
Thank you. Everyone else is here for the same reason.
I'm here because I kind of know your name, Ariana, but I'd never heard you speak. And I'm also interested in what happens to texts when they're performed or spoken out loud as opposed to read in private.
Myself, I was quite enthusiastic to see there were conferences in the Beaux-Arts, as I'm a Beaux-Arts student, about poetry. And the first three were interesting, but I think this one was probably the best, so I'm glad it exists. And I was curious to see people I never heard about and glad to know now. And I think it was really, really interesting and challenging to hear you three tonight.
You're gonna make us cry.
Thank you. I believe I became a poet when I told my grandmother, "Oh, the river speaks." And then I became a stranger in my family. And then later, I became a businessman. I sold my business to live my dream. And until now, everybody think that I'm crazy. I was in London, and I came back to Paris. And at the Georges Pompidou Center, my neighbor was reading, doing some research. And the title of the book was La Grande Imposture Littéraire. And when I look at him, and I said that he must be a writer. And I look at him. And then later, when I explain him, I show him on my display, because I had my computer doing my work. And there was Shakespeare and Company. About it. And he looked at it and he said, we move. You get a book, his later work in his bag. And he said to me, here you are. The title of the book is Là-bas. And that is from this book, my inspiration. My inspiration was I was looking for a long time ago that I got it as a Georges Pompidou. Show la grande imposture littéraire.
So you know what? Why you are here?
First of all, you invited me. No, okay. I will talk like this, yes. Sorry. So, first of all, you invited me, and then I was a little bit surprised. Where did you hear from me? Why you invited me? And then you sent the papers, you know, the material, and it sounded very interesting to me, and it's still very interesting. I'm very glad to be here. So the question is now, where did you hear from me? Because, you know, Slovenia is somewhere else. You know, 2 billion of people will speak this language.
The first poem I read about you was about a father. And I questioned myself, I said, is it a dream, this poem, or is not a dream? Is it a dream, or is it a vision, or is it transfiguration? I don't know if I'm the best person to tell about this poem. Maybe you are.
No, the poets never are.
I don't have it with me. Usually I have many poems, but I don't have that one.
Thank you.
The father is an elk, kind of an animal with horns or something.
Yeah, he transforms in a deer.
In a deer. Then you say something, come and drink.
Yeah, actually it's about my late father. He died a year before I wrote this poem. So it's like a dream, a vision. If you prefer vision, it could be a vision or a dream. And of course I'm sad there, you know, I'm sad in the poem. And I don't know this poem by heart, so if I would know it, I will tell you, but I don't know. Oh.
Do you feel like to read it if you don't?
No, I can read. I don't see very well, but I will read. Father, last night I dreamt about you, Father. You came into my dream as a deer and stood astride a grassy mound. I called you by your name, Father. I called you by the word Father. I said, look, my eyes are two wet flowers by the mountain stream. Come, let your warm dear tongue dry the dew that fell upon my eyes. And you stood as in another world, as in another dream, astride a mount overgrown with grass. You shook your mighty antlers and vanished in the white cloud of no one's dream. Thank you.
So this is how. This is why.
Okay, thank you.
And Ariana.
I was thinking today that there's like this way that anytime you go to France, for any reason, it's like desire and revolution. It's not like what this place is all about. Like, there's something so fun. Like, it's just like, yeah, well, desire and revolution. It's like, it's so, it's, I don't know. It feels like such a, I was thinking today, like the sky is so 18th century. You know, like in 1789, the sky was a certain way, and after that, it's like, there's something about this place that's mysterious to me. It's been mysterious to me all my life. I mean, I know there's circumstances why I'm here, but there's something about every time I set foot on this soil, and it's been a few times in my life, and it's like I keep waking up and then falling asleep, and I go to sleep for a while, and I wake up, and I'm here, and I've been down and out here a lot, you know, and passed through, but there's something. You know, didn't Ho Chi Minh come here to learn how to make pastry? You know, and I think Mao studied here as well. Lots of revolutionaries, terrible ones and infamous ones and great ones, whatever great means, great insofar as we remember them, I suppose. There's something in the water here. And yet, and also there's like this, aren't like the mechanisms of desire like, don't they find their perfection in this language or in this place? But because of that, don't they get kind of like perversely stiff and stuck and classical? I don't know, like, I've always been fascinated by how French people say c'est normal, le normal, l'idée du normal. Like for me, what's normal in America is it's very low. You know what I mean? You wouldn't say, like normal, like école normale or whatever, like a normal is like, your normal is like completely different. I just mean like there's something formal. There's a formality or there's a sense of that things have a certain form, you know? And desire has a certain form, revolution has a certain form. There's an erotics of both that have a certain form here. It's like a local specialty. You know, I don't know what it is in Peru or, you know, or where I live, but I know I was influenced by this formality, oppressed by it. But I think that every time I come here, it's for this reason. Next time, who knows what kind of a room I'll be in.
For me, to discover a place, to make an experience of a discovery of a place of persons that I didn't know before, and to make, to test so important in my work, but it was, I think, thanks to Alex that I had the possibility to test this concept in my work. So it was really a great opportunity for me. That's why I'm here, because I would like to make this experience of a desire in my work and to construct, I think, a new bridge with other persons, with other areas that are not only academic, because I am a social scientist, I'm not a poet. And I think it was really a very important desire to overcome the borders of my areas, of my living and professional areas, and to discover something of new, to leave this type of border area. I'm very fascinated by that.
If you have any questions to ask to each other, this is the right moment. I would like just to highlight something that for some reason Peter Semolič with the kata, Ariana Reines with her poem also, and you also, the three of you, you talk about something, as I understood it, maybe I misunderstood it, of the level of the grade of a ritual for some sort. I have no questions about it, but I would like if you can say something, because it seems that desire passed through this kind of rituals for some reason. And also because I know a little bit about Ariana work, sometimes she refers about something to obey or some voice. Also in the poem she said, this said to this said. I would like just if you can stress a little bit more that part, if you want, no obligation.
Well, yeah, definitely. I loved when Peter said that poetry happens before the words. I feel absolutely that way, and it's a really physical art. It's weird. It's like it's close to your body. I mean, prose is too, for sure. All writing is very physical. Like your breath and your rhythm and your ear for music is what shapes it. All language. I mean, really. Yeah. Everything that comes out of your mouth too, of course. But that's more readily bodily because it's your voice and it's produced by your body. But I think with that poem, Thursday, with the repetition and then how different kinds of speech came later, so it could seem, it was formal and it begins with invocation and it's invoking things that are old and high and also things that are less revered. I guess I like having a chance to get into something. In the same way a ritual helps you get into a different state so that then things can happen. You know, it's like you're warmed up or something. So I was interested in that. Creating a space, like, you know how like stanza means room? So it's like you can go deeper and deeper into a structure and then you feel comfortable enough that even if a small thing happens, you'll really get it, or something. Yeah.
I was wondering how much the experience of to be lost is important in your work, because in hearing Ariana poems, I was very impressed by the sensation of loss that we can have as an audience through your rhythm, the repetition of words. And the same thing in Peter's poems, when he used grammatical features, like, for example, I speak and I am spoken, like that, and I felt that it was something of very close to the loss experience, and that's what's very important for my work. So it is something that it makes sense for you, or not? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And is this a sort of how is the place of the loss experience in making poetry?
No, surprised me for that. But I can say what is the most important in my experience of writing poems is that I lose myself in a poem. I disappear, actually, not always. It would be nice if this would happen every time, but it's not. So, but sometimes I'm completely lost. Better to speak in this. Okay. Sometimes it's happened that I lost myself in a poem, and so for me it was when you talked about your experience to become a drag king, was like, oh good Lord, this is happening also outside of poetry. I don't have this kind of experience outside of poetry, where you are everything and nothing at the same time. You have a lot of identities, and this solid identity. I'm sitting here, I'm Peter, I'm from Slovenia, this identity is melting step by step, and you become someone else, or the real you, or the real I. So this is the most important thing in poetry for me. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, it's okay.
I love the oceanic, the watery thing that was happening in the poem that you read, because that fusion and being carried completely outside of yourself, I'm with you about that. And I also loved when I read it, and then again tonight to hear it. It's so wonderful, like, to have a drag king experience, because, like, and I feel like it should be required. Like, I want to be a drag queen, a drag king. Like, I want to know what that feels like, because I too feel like androgyny is a big part of how I feel as I'm writing. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but I sometimes feel like I'm writing from a manly feeling or a really neutral feeling, and when I'm writing a lot, sometimes I stop feeling like a woman, and then I start to want to feel more womanly, and so I try to compensate by being a drag queen more, or like, And so there's this strange way that it goes through the physical and out beyond, and sometimes comes back in through it again, but it doesn't ever just stay in there, you know? Like, I used to wonder why I wasn't more satisfied by the idea of like écriture féminine, you know? Because I think that's probably what I'm doing in a way, or something, you know, or, and yet I find that when you're in that space of writing, or when I'm in it for long, I kind of lose my body. I don't just lose my sense of it in the present, but like gradually it sort of removes me from these other ways that invention happens, like in the physical. I don't know if I'm making sense, and I'm probably not answering your question. I'm just vibing on.
No,
I still try in English. I have a question for you. I don't remember your name. When you say that the desire has its own agency, what's about the internal desire? You know, because for me it would be more like something you have inside, and you realize it, and you discover it, but it's like an echo, you know, something you've heard about it inside you, and maybe it's like not really a discovery, but a recognition. Are you agree with that, or? Because I was pretty surprised about your conception, you know, like something external. So you act, you do something, you experiment something, and then it transforms you. So I was pretty surprised by your conception.
Yeah, that was my experience in any case, that the fact that I had a desire, it was internal in me, and I was thinking that I was doing was, in a certain sense, directed by my own internal desire, and I discovered then it was the action itself. It was transforming that I was thinking. It was my internal desire. And I was discovering at the same time new desires. So the question for me, it was, who is the subject, you know? And for me it was very fascinating, theoretically speaking, but also in an existential way, to discover that I was moved by an external force, something that it was emerging in action. And I think then desire, and I think that it's very interesting to think about desire in this sense, because we are quite used to think about desire like something that it's inside of us, something that it could precede our actions, but maybe it's something of different, and maybe it could transform our idea of what a subject is and what action is. it's like to think about ourselves like an artistic oeuvre that you can transform in action, and in this action you can discover another self, another you. That's my objective that I want to pursue, to work in my research, but also in my life. A sort of scientific and personal agenda. I don't know if I answered to your question, but...
You open other doors. Thank you.
I have a question for you, please. I understand your experience of non-identity, non-reification of yourself, perhaps. And I understand the politic subject with that. And I'm asking to you, to myself, but here to you, how the linguistic or the word, or perhaps poetry, can do the revolution, help the revolution, this politics to change the non-identification of gender, to do it more real, how can the word or linguistic can help this to do it more real, to change this, to do this revolution?
How the language, can you reformulate your question? How the language transform?
Perhaps I can try in French.
Or do in French, we are going to translate.
Comment les mots peuvent accompagner cette révolution? Comment les mots peuvent accompagner cette révolution de la non-identification, de la non-réification de la personne? Est-ce qu'ils peuvent jouer un rôle dans la transformation de la perception des choses? Est-ce que ça peut être un allié, une arme? Quel est le rôle des mots?
Okay, I understand. Okay, I answer to your question in English, and maybe in answering in English you can understand the question. The question is, how is the role of language in transforming ourselves, and how language can be a sort of constraint or a sort of revolutionary tool for transforming our lives, right? Something like that? Okay. Both, for me. That's what I am so interested in language, because language is something that it can constrain us, but at the same time, we can be very creative with language. We can, and being creative with language, it means for me to try to change things in the society. I think that we can change things in society through language. So language could be a very powerful tool, not only for transforming our lives, but only for transforming our society. I'm deeply convinced about that. But language is not only words for me. Language is a lot of things. It's also gestures, it's also gazes. But I have a vision about that. It's that gestures, gaze, postures, they are not something that you can add to words. Words and gaze, words and posture, words and walking are part of the same thing. And words can re-signify gesture, and gesture can re-signify words. So it's an holistic vision.
Thank you.
So we just have very, very few minutes. Is this this idea I had when I was listening to your presentation? Then, of course, we talked before, and then also Ariana and Peter. Is that I was thinking of this story of the two magicians that I said before, and you didn't know about this story because I didn't tell you anything about it. But then I was thinking of your story. Is not the same, but there are echoes of this. There are echoes. Your poems, I think, there are echoes of that also. And well, of course, this idea of making circles out of, or making squares out of stones in the water, understanding that you're not the circle, writing as circles in the water. This idea of transformation, transforming, and creative force and transformational force, it's very, very old. Because that song, it's very, very old. And at the same time, it's an old song that talks about becoming new all the time, a new thing all the time. There is a lot about transformations also. I remember when I was a kid, we were going in one little small room. There was the room where the broom and the hoover was. And where my grandmother put a lot of things that were like old things that she didn't wear anymore, and my mom didn't wear, and my grandfather didn't wear, and no one wanted anymore. And it was our favorite place where to play games. We used to get in and coming out. And every time we were coming out from the little room, it was 1 square meters, not even more than that. We were 3, changing there, coming out, we were different. Coming back, coming out different, coming back and out different all the time. And I wish everybody to have their little room all the time available. I don't know if you want to say something about the little room. We have a couple of minutes. And if you don't want, we can end with a last poem. The last poem of Bill. You want Bill? Yeah. So this is a poem of Bill Knott. The way the word is not astonished at you, it doesn't blink a leaf when we step from the house, leads me to think that beauty is natural and remarkable and not to be spoken of, except in the course of things, the course of singing and work sharing, the course of squeezes and neighbors, the course of you tying back your raven hair to go out, and the course of me astonished at you the way the word is not. Thank you so much. Yes, I would like just to thank the people that helped me to make this possible. Of course, l'équipe Shock that we have, they are just amazing.
Then I would like to thank you so much for the microphones, films, everything. And I would like to thank Blanche. Thank you so much also for the help you gave for this. And I want to thank, of course, Gianni. Thank you so much. Because she has been waiting me for hours sometimes, waiting me for hours sometimes. And then this morning she came with a pan au chocolat, no, what was that? With some sweets and coffee. She wanted me to cry as well. And thank you so much. Yes, champagne. Sorry. It's just that I didn't saw. Just I was thinking.